This episode is brought to you by Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels and music are made for each other. They share a rhythm in the craft of making something timeless, while being a part of legendary nights. From backyard jams to sold-out arenas, there's a song in every toast. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility.org. Jack Daniels and Old No. 7 are registered trademarks. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniel Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Finally in your wellness era? Then you know gut health is gut wealth. And with 20 years of science behind it, Activia can help keep those good gut vibes going. Deliciously smooth and creamy, Activia probiotic yogurts and dailies have billions of live and active probiotics and help support gut health while you go about your day. Your gut is where it all begins, so start with Activia. Enjoying Activia twice a day for 2 weeks as part of a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle can help reduce the frequency of minor digestive discomfort.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hi. It is Thursday. Welcome in. Here's some of the things you'll learn on tonight's program. In tech news, a Spirit Airlines pilot reportedly was warned to, quote, get off his iPad by an air traffic controller. But the reason they were sassed? This Spirit Airlines pilot veered too close to Air Force One. Seriously, dude, get off the iPad. And a new type of massive telecom threat was stopped right as the UN General Assembly was starting. And it really makes you think, how much of our technology infrastructure is vulnerable to weird new threat vectors that you could have never anticipated? These tech stories and more in about 10 minutes time. After that, what kind of person agrees to help get rid of a body after a crime? Later in the hour, we uncover the surprising group dynamics behind cover-ups. Who on earth helps with something like that after a crime occurs, and why? Those are just some of the things we'll cover in the show. There'll be more, but for now, let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And it's breaking news out of London, England. Our foreign correspondent who is based there, Tony Five, did something last night in London, England. Breaking news, Tony. Breaking news. Welcome.
David, I wish we had the rights to songs, but it's abracadabra. I'm gonna reach out and grab ya. I went to a magic show, my friend, a full-on stage performance parlor magic show.
Wow. And you are somewhat of an amateur magician, aren't you?
Yeah, don't ever call me that again, David. You know we can get taken off the air. But yes, I do like to do a little bit of prestidigitation sometimes. Yes, I am an amateur magician. I've always liked it.
Now, does you not being allowed to go anywhere near schools affect your ability to perform magic? Okay, that was a terrible joke. But ever since a young age, you've been performing and, doing tricks. And you've got fancy fake card decks and top hats. And there's a dead rabbit somewhere in your apartment.
That's more pest control. But yes, there is. So I'll tell. Weirdly, how I got into it. I was quite a sickly child. I used to have asthma, and I used to be in hospital, and I used to get like nebulizers and oxygen, and be there for a few days. And I was bored, and then someone had given me like a deck of cards, so I started playing with them. And my nature is always to be around people and stuff. And I started to do tricks for the other patients.
Can you do the coin behind the ear one? I love that one.
Yeah, I can do that one.
That's a good one, yeah.
I can do the hide the sausage one, but that's more for Tinder. But basically, I started doing tricks and the other patients liked them, and I just carried on. And then obviously I'm an engineer now. I like the mechanics of it, and actually the derivation of engineer was used with magicians. So it's the magicians, their assistants, who used to create these amazing tricks for Houdini and so on. And the history of magic is quite good,
Yeah, I mean, they are engineering feats, these tricks. They have complicated parts, trap doors. They're incredibly complicated. They have to be executed to really, really tight tolerances if you want the trick to go well and not to saw the lady in half. You saw quite a well-known act, Penn and Teller, last night.
Correct. So I would say they are probably the most well-known, the greatest duo act ever. Obviously, most people know Houdini, David Copperfield, people like that. And then you got your David Blaines and so on. But as far as stage magicians go, they had a residency in Las Vegas for I don't know how long. And yesterday was the finale of their 50th year working as stage magicians. And they were fantastic. They were fantastic. They're not your conventional magicians. They actually mock conventional magicians because sometimes they'll tell you how they do the trick and you still have no idea. They'll explain how they're doing the trick and they'll show you how they do the trick. For example, instead of, like when people hide cloths over things or misdirection, so on and so forth, they will do it and still convince you of a trick.
So they're saying, we're misdirecting you right now. You'll watch and you'll still get misdirected even though they're telling it to you.
Completely. So they had, it's silly, they had like a box covered in a cloth on stage. And whilst they did that, they had a monkey dressed up as a monkey with big cymbals crashing, on one side of the stage, and it was pointing at this monkey. So everybody's looking at this monkey. Whilst he did that, he had
you can't point at your monkey on the radio, by the way.
I know.
We're going to get in trouble.
I was going to say that would have been my Tinder profile, pointed monkey. But basically, he then had his colleague tell her, go behind the box, grab a live chicken and walk out with it. So the chicken was in the box. So he asked everybody, did you see the monkey? And they were like, yeah. And then, did you see Teller take the chicken? They were like, yeah. He took the cloth off and there was another monkey in there. Amazing. Right on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like in the middle of this stage. It was fantastic.
As a lifelong lover of magic, it must be cool to see these guys because they're into their 70s. Like they're not going to be performing forever. It must be cool for you to experience something like that.
Yeah, I think akin to you like your music and you like your kind of your radio stars. Yeah, it's good. It's like seeing my heroes.
I saw James Brown before he died and I loved James Brown.
Didn't?
I did. I loved him so. Yes, but he played. So I was living in Toronto at the time, in Canada, and he played at this casino 3 hours by car away, kind of in a very sparsely populated area.
Right.
It was on a native reservation. It was, it was a nice casino, but it was really far from Toronto. And he kept on saying during the concert, "Hello, Toronto," and I'm like, this is disingenuous. We're not in. But he was great. He did sit down for the majority of it because he was already
did they roll him out on a wheelchair or something?
Yeah.
Did he still have that really slick, straight hair?
Yeah, that hair, when they open up his grave in 10 million years' time, is like a time capsule. There'll just be dust and the hair.
I can imagine. I mean, he was amazing. The voice, and I see him, you see some of the YouTube videos with him and Michael Jackson. But apparently, I don't know a lot about music like you do, but he was a pioneer of his art, right?
Yeah, I mean, all his songs kind of sound the same, but structurally and, funkily and jazzy and all that, he was great. I love James Brown. Was he a great person behind the scenes? Not always, but his music was great. Back to you. How does it feel, though, to watch these great people that you've always loved towards the end of their career? Because it's kind of a special moment, right?
It's bittersweet, right? It's absolutely bittersweet because you want them to go on forever. You listen to them and they talk a little bit about their history and how they met and the reason why Teller, who's his, so Penn's the tall guy. He's the one that's been on Friends. He's been on Simpsons, all sorts of things. Teller's the little one who doesn't talk. So he's a silent magician. So his on-screen act is that he doesn't say anything, but you can hear him talk online and stuff, but he doesn't talk. And the reason he doesn't talk is because people were losing focus because of his voice. So he focused purely on the magician and the magic, and he's very technically adept. So seeing them, it was nice. It was lovely. It was the last show. And then they had a credit scene on this huge screen with all the people that they've worked with. It was ridiculous. The biggest names in magic in the world.
They used to appear on one of my it's a very cheesy show. If you don't love science fiction, you're not going to be able to watch it. But if you're a hardcore science fiction lover, it's one of the great sci-fi shows from the 90s called Babylon 5. Way better than Star Trek. The graphics and the budget for the costumes was nothing. So it's kind of it's kind of you're watching it and you're kind of laughing because it's so cheesy and the CGI is 4 pixels, you know. But it's a great show, Babylon 5. So I kind of know them from that. And they've really had this massive career with media appearances, late night, daytime TV show appearances, great tours, a residency in Vegas. It must have been cool.
It was amazing, and he's got such an amazing voice. He can fill a theater because he's got such a deep. I want to say Texan, but I could be wrong. He's just got a very, very deep sort of voice. It's amazing.
Tony Five, our foreign correspondent in London, England, joins us every day to start the show. And thanks for sharing this breaking news that you went to a magic show, my friend.
When we go on Thanksgiving, I'm going to try cut you in half, my friend.
Please, please don't. Although you should bring tricks. When you come and visit me, bring tricks. It's just like getting people at a dinner party to pay attention to your magic tricks.
Yes.
It's almost as corny as like bringing an acoustic guitar and expecting people to listen to you play your stupid songs.
Did I do that one year?
No, I hate friends who bring guitars to party. That's my least favorite archetype.
Who bring accessories? Yeah, it's a very David Brent thing, isn't it?
My least favorite person is someone who brings performing accessories to parties. Tony 5, thanks again, my friend.
Cheers.
Coming up next, guess what airline had a pilot distracted by an iPad so much they veered close to Air Force One and got a pretty stern warning? We'll tell you after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Abercrombie denim is everything right now. Denim should feel like this. Confident, easy, like your butt has never looked better. If you didn't know, Abercrombie's Curve Love denim went viral in 2019 for eliminating waist gap, and it's still a game changer. Between that and their classic fits with a straighter line from waist to hip, the perfect denim does exist. Shop Abercrombie denim in the app, online, and in store.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late Night's Fresh Perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is time for Technology Time. We are joined by my friend and technology expert, Carmi Levy, to discuss an airline pilot who got a little too close to Air Force One, and his excuse was he was staring at an iPad in the cockpit. This sounds pretty bad, and I didn't even disclose what airline. It was Spirit Airlines. Carmi, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, David. Yes. Let's dump all over Spirit because Lord knows that airline kind of deserves it.
I have flown it once, and while it wasn't great, it wasn't as bad as all the bad press they get, I will say.
Yeah, I have avoided flying them for that reason because I don't think and airlines generally do get bad press. It's really a thankless industry to be in, but Spirit really does seem to be kind of I realize it's the discount airline. I realize they've unbundled everything, that the experience of flying Spirit just really isn't very spiritual, and they get a lot of complaints, but I've avoided it for that reason, and now knowing what happens on the flight deck, I might continue that.
No one complains about Spirit when they buy the ticket and it's cheaper than all the others. It's just everything that happens after you buy the ticket, I suppose.
When you realize that once you buy that low price ticket, everything else is going to come with its own extra charge, right? You want to breathe air with a certain minimum level of oxygen. You're going to have to pay for that. Like everything has an additional cost. The term they like to use is unbundling, and their excuse or the marketing message is it allows customers to choose what they pay for and what they don't, so they save money. But in many cases, a lot of people go into these arrangements without really understanding what that means, and so when they have to pay to check their luggage or pay to choose their seat or pay to sit in a certain part of the plane, they get really upset because they clearly didn't read the fine print when they first booked the ticket.
All right, so let's talk about this flight. This pilot is going to be doing the walk of shame if this pilot continues to have a job. But the one thing you maybe shouldn't do in the U.S. is fly a plane too close to Air Force One, that's carrying the president. I feel like there's lots of buzzing radio signals, lots of information up front that says don't come near me. Now, while it might seem like the pilot didn't get too close to Air Force One, I think it was maybe like 11 miles away. When you consider how fast planes are going, that's very close. Like 5 miles in a plane takes 2 seconds. I mean, I've just made that number up, but they go quick, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like according to the airline, they never got within their minimums. They were, I think, at their closest approach, they were 11 miles away from Air Force One when the pilot of the Spirit Airlines aircraft finally kind of realized what was going on and, turned to get away from it. But 11 miles when both of you are doing 600 miles an hour, that is mere seconds, and it can be disastrous. And what's disturbing about this case was that the air traffic controller, this was over Long Island, the Spirit Airlines plane was flying to Boston. Air Force One was on its way to the UK with the president on board. Of course, when it's called Air Force One, and he ordered the Spirit plane to turn 20 degrees to the right, and he had to repeat that several times to the point that he would say, "Pay attention attention. Spirit 1300 turn 20 degrees right, over and over and over. And then finally if you listen to the audio, he got really testy. He'd go, I'm sure you can see who it is. Keep an eye out for him. He's white and blue. And finally, he wasn't getting the answer that he wanted. And so he kind of yelled on the air, get off the iPad. And that is, they're not playing games on the iPad. Many pilots today, they bring iPads on board instead of those big old binders of maps and aircraft manuals and
flight plans and all that
exactly,
stuff.
Flight plans and sort of the map for the airport that you're going to, and it's got all sorts of procedures on it. Instead, all of that is now replicated in software. You just carry one iPad, and it's sort of it's a consistent part of your flight deck kit. However, in this case, for whatever reason, the pilot was not answering calls from air traffic control, and that, as we know, can result in disaster if you don't listen to their orders. So, kind of shows distraction maybe, and there obviously was some distraction going on in there. Isn't limited to drivers in cars on the ground with their smartphones. It also happens, 35,000 feet in the sky with pilots who are using iPads to find their way. And I'm wondering if because usually when there is kind of an issue, when you land, you're given a phone number that you're supposed to call where they basically chew you out.
I love that. It's like go to the principal's office, but you have to call the principal.
Exactly. And in this case, I mean, they might require additional training. They'll obviously be investigating this. There may be additional sanctions involved. So it's a very serious event. It's getting headlines because, in this case, it involved Air Force One. But truth of the matter, it could have involved any other plane, and the risks would have been just as great.
Now, if anyone ever gets a little bit of free time, you can watch some of these air traffic controller exchanges on YouTube for some of these flying events. And when pilots get into fights with air traffic controllers or each other over their radios, it's some of the funniest, most passive aggressive, subtly passive aggressive things. And it's just, I don't know, it's so funny to me. And the idea of an ATC person saying to a pilot, get off your iPad. In air traffic language, that's about as insulting as you can get. It just seems like a short little condescending thing, but that's aggressive, not passive aggressive in airline speak.
It is. Doesn't happen very often, but if you're looking for fireworks to happen in air traffic control communications, look to the greater New York area because that is some of the most congested airspace in the world. And if conflicts are going to occur, they're probably going to occur there first. That's where air traffic controllers are going to get angrier sooner, especially if they're based in and around Newark.
Yeah. I mean, also they're New Yorkers, so they're already completely rude,
That's right. Well, let's face it. When planes are all moving around each other at hundreds of miles an hour, there isn't a whole lot of room for politeness and patience. It's, here's your order, follow that order, and if you don't, we're going to have a problem. To me, that's a very New York way of operating, and if it keeps us safe, I think it's a good thing.
It's always adorable when an ATC employee or an air traffic controller has a thick Bronx or thick Queens accent, and they're sassing some pilot from Asia, that they did something wrong. These videos are very entertaining. And this one is definitely one on the list. Let's talk now about a recent UN gathering, because there was a tech threat that went on, and it's not a scam or a threat that I've ever seen before. Tell me about it. This is kind of wild.
Yeah, it's wild and scary. So the investigation was led by the U.S. Secret Service. So just think about that for a second. You usually think of them as protecting the president when he gets in and out of his limousine, but in reality, it now extends to electronic threats to the leadership of the United States. And so they were conducting an investigation, a broader investigation into telecommunications threats to senior government leaders. And as they were going through this investigation, they discovered a number of sites in the New York area that had basically servers that allowed you to plug in SIM cards. And those, everyone knows what a SIM card is. It's what allows your phone to authenticate onto a wireless network. If you don't have a SIM card, your smartphone doesn't work. And so imagine now a server or a bunch of servers, hundreds of them, 300 of them in a bunch of different locations, and 100,000 SIM cards all plugged into these servers. So basically, it's like they're pretending to be 100,000 phones. And they had software on them that would allow them to make millions of anonymous texts or anonymous phone calls and basically bring the cell phone network down in the entire New York geographic area. And wouldn't you know it, they discovered this right as the United Nations was having its General Assembly meeting. So all of these leaders are in the New York area for this UN meeting, and they discovered this huge plot to essentially attack telecommunications infrastructure in New York. All they had to do was flip it on and it would have been utter chaos. Imagine millions of people in and around New York not being able to text anyone, make phone calls, use their apps, anything at all, no communication at all. It kind of reminds us of 9/11 when the cell phone network collapsed as the Twin Towers collapse. This would be much worse because we rely on our technology so much more today than we did in 2001. So basically, we dodged a bullet. This would have been a significant attack.
Yeah, it's a whole new type of attack. It's basically like a denial of service in some sense. It just takes down the telecom infrastructure in a way that I've not heard reported before. Kind of cool that the Secret Service busted it up, but kind of alarming that there could be these unknown attack vectors that we've never heard of that could take down the whole cellular infrastructure. Carmi Levy is here. It's time for technology time. And when we come back, we will discuss iOS 26, Liquid Glass, the new operating system for your phone. Some people love it, some people hate it, and some people are having eye and brain issues, vertigo issues with it. More up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
The human algorithm, where emotional inputs create unexpected outputs. The last show with David Cooper.
All right, if you're someone who loves updating your phone, the second a new software patch comes out, you might want to listen to this because Apple, their iOS software for the iPhone, it's now called Liquid Glass. And for some people, it's causing them vertigo. And I actually suffer from a form of vertigo sometimes, which I guess I'll talk about in a second. But let's talk about this new iOS first, here with Carmi Levy, a technology expert. Carmi, welcome back.
Welcome. I feel welcome. Thanks for welcoming me. I appreciate being here.
To me, it just looks like they changed the icons. Like, I haven't actually updated my phone. I have friends who say they love it. I have friends who say they don't care about it. But now there are people reporting eye strain and vertigo. Imagine using your phone and then getting nauseous and dizzy and getting the spins.
Yeah, well, I mean, this really is it's the most significant change to iOS in years. And so it introduces that new liquid glass aesthetic, let's call it. And it looks, and I updated it immediately just because, again, if I'm writing and speaking about it, I kind of want to have that first person experience with it. And I'm rather enjoying it. It's got these really cool animations on it, and it's appreciably different than what we had before, but it's still fairly familiar. And it looks kind of cool, and I'm always about that. But it is a radical difference, and some of those animations are throwing people off. Some of the icons, like you said, they appear tilted, which for some people it makes them feel dizzy. Their eyes feel strained, and some of them are even saying that they feel vertigo. So, there are a lot of reports on Reddit and other social media platforms of people just, it's really different from what it is, what came before, and they're finding it very difficult to use. Is this the majority of users? Probably not, but we know full well that even a small minority can make a lot of noise on social media. And so there are some ways to minimize the impact of the new interface. So you can reduce the transparency level so that the glass looks less glassy, that it's more opaque so that elements laid over on top of other elements, you don't see as much from behind, which can reduce some of the effect, some of the impact that drives some of these behaviors, some of the vertigo that people are feeling. You can also increase the contrast on it. And so you can go into the settings and tweak these things. And obviously your mileage may vary. Everyone's going to feel a little bit different, but there are ways to kind of play with the effects in the new operating system to reduce any problematic changes that you might be detecting with your eyes. So far, I'm not seeing anything, and I'm a really heavy user of my phone, all day, every day. But again, it's all anecdotal. Some people see nothing, and others, they wish they could go back to the old version.
I suffer from BPPV. It's called benign paroxysmal positional vertigo.
Ooh.
The short of it is every year, 2 years, 3 years, my inner ear gets clogged, and your inner ear, your cochlea, and yes, I'm allowed to say that on the radio, your cochlea, it's this organ in your ear responsible for balance. It tells your brain how to stay balanced, like how it tells it's how your brain figures out how
you
to
orient
not fall
yourself,
over.
yeah.
Yeah. If you can stand up straight, it's because that organ is telling your brain how to do it. And there's this little bit of fluid in there or something like that, and it can fill with crystals. It's sort of like a kidney stone for your inner ear. And when that happens, I am knocked on my butt. I cannot get out of bed. The world spins. If I move my head, I will throw up because of the dizziness. And no matter what I have to do, I can't do it. Like if I've got a plane to catch, I won't be able to get on it.
Wow.
I've missed a wedding over this. I've missed a vacation. When I get it, I am down, and I would not wish it on my I would not wish it on my worst enemy, on my bratwurst enemy. I'm having trouble talking today. And I just the idea of updating this thing and getting dizzy and getting the spins, getting vertigo on my phone, I'm going to hold off on this update, Carmi, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I would generally recommend that whenever there's a major update to any operating system, you do not want to don't follow my lead. I only do it because of work, but you don't want to be the first person to download it. Best to let everyone else sort of figure out these initial glitches, and then Apple will introduce updates to it, and that will be rolled out in a subsequent release. So, 26.0.1, which will probably hit within a week or two, that will fix a lot of these problems that people are reporting. We'll also probably put the fixes, make them more obvious, and make it easier for you to find them. So if you haven't updated yet, hold off for a little bit, give it a few days, wait for the 0.1 update to be released, and then you should be good to go. And also, just a reminder, screen time, right? If you're spending too much time staring at a screen, no matter the version of the operating system, probably doesn't hurt to put the phone down and maybe go outside for a walk in nature.
Okay, our next story, sort of have personal experience here because I used to work before I was in media in the ticketing industry. I worked for a ticket selling company, not unlike Ticketmaster, and I'm not going to name them because some of the things I'm going to say are pretty negative here. Let's just say I'm not talking about my former employee. This story about Ticketmaster, which everyone seems to hate, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they are suing Ticketmaster for allegedly colluding with ticket resellers to jack up the prices of tickets. It's as if this company didn't need another piece of negative press. Everyone hates them for their business practices. Everyone hates them for their high fees. And now this. Tell me about the story.
Yeah, and this, every time you buy tickets, they're supposed to go on sale, say Friday at 10 o'clock, and then you sign in 3 hours earlier to wait in the queue, and then at 10:01 all the tickets are sold out. And supposedly the systems are supposed to prevent bots from scooping up all the tickets, but then wouldn't you know, at 10:02, after the tickets have sold out, they magically appear on reseller platforms for 2 or 3 times the price. And so the FTC is alleging that Ticketmaster not only turns its head away, it ignores the fact that brokers are doing this, are using bots to scoop up tickets, but it actually provides technical support to those bots to facilitate that process. They allow their security measures to, go, are you a bot? They allow them to bypass them and then help them if the technology doesn't work as it's supposed to. Basically, it's locking you and me out of getting concert or event tickets at a reasonable price, and it's benefiting these other companies. Ticketmaster made $16.4 billion in fees, according to the FTC, between 2019 and 2024, and they're saying a lot of that is because they colluded with these third-party players to drive prices up. We've been talking about this for years. Ask anyone who goes to any number of concerts, this is usually their number one frustration. And now the FTC is saying, and they've partnered with 7 states in the U.S. They're going after the owner of Ticketmaster, Live Nation, and they're saying that this behavior has to stop, and they say that they will be able to prove their case in court.
Well, I'm not talking about my former employer because I know nothing.
We will
about
not say
that,
that word at all.
Look, these fees are so upsetting to customers. Like when my girlfriend just went to see Chapel Roan, the artist. She's like one of the hottest acts these
Pink
days.
Pony Club, yeah.
There you go. And the ticket might be, I don't know, $150, but then the fees are like another 40 or 50. And people look at that and they immediately start hating Ticketmaster. And Ticketmaster is sort of, in some sense, happy to take the brand hit because they're already known as like a player that people don't like. But what's really happening with those fees is some of it goes back to like the promoter and the venue. And Ticketmaster's like, sure, we'll charge $40. The customer will hate us, but we'll give you 15 of that if you choose us as a selling platform. This is just hypothetical. I'll just use the word allegedly so we can't get sued. But there's all kinds of shady stuff that goes on with fees. It's just to add this to the mix, colluding with resellers who charge customers even more than the face value. It's just kind of sad that people just want to see their favorite artists and they end up getting scammed by these big corporations.
Yeah,
allegedly.
I remember when this very issue flared during the Taylor Swift Eras tour. And, what I find interesting is you ask most artists and they agree with their fans. They're not part of this. Unfortunately, they're being tarred with the same brush because it's their concerts that are kind of headlining this entire thing. So they will tell you, that it isn't them. It is not their fault. And if it were up to them, this wouldn't be an issue.
I mean, if Taylor Swift really didn't want to rip off her fans, she's a billionaire. She's one of the hottest artists. Yeah. I'm sure she could figure it out.
And I'm kind of hoping that the attention to this issue from the Taylor Swift concert tour, as well as this FTC lawsuit, will begin to turn the tide. Something's got to give.
Well, Carmi, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks so much, David. Great being with you.
Carmi Levy is my favorite technology expert. Coming up next, the grisly group dynamics of those who help a criminal dispose a body. Sensitive listeners and parents with kids, this one might get a little gruesome, so be advised.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Routine, adjective, used to describe an individual whose spirit is unyielding, unconstrained, one who navigates life on their own terms, effortlessly. They do not always show up on time, but when they arrive, you notice an individual confident in their contradictions. They know the rules, but behave as if they do not exist. Routine, the new fragrance by Miu Miu, defined by you.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
When multiple people commit a crime, the cover-up can be as revealing as the act itself. Tonight, we'll explore chilling research into group body disposal after a murder, how people work together to hide remains, and what it teaches us about human behavior under pressure. I'm here with someone who's done research in this area. He's a criminology lecturer at Australian Catholic University. His name is Dr. Nathan Ryan. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hello, David. How are you?
I ask a lot of people what draws them to their research. It's sort of just a boilerplate stock question to get a conversation going. But in this case, I am dying to know what drew you to something so specific and frankly grisly, like the group dynamics of body disposal.
Yeah, well, interestingly, it's something I sort of fell into. It wasn't something I started out to pursue. I did my initial training in psychology, looking at spatial memory and spatial decision-making. And so an opportunity came up to work with some law enforcement in Australia, and they had this particular issue around body disposal. So it's the two sort of areas just sort of merged. And now I'm looking at spatial decision-making and those sorts of things in the context of body disposal. So adding an extra sort of layer of fascination, I suppose, to that area.
Let's look at the study. Your study focused on 30 some odd cases in Australia over 3 decades. Were there patterns in the way people dispose bodies? Were there patterns that emerged with group disposal versus solo disposal?
Yeah, there's definitely patterns in the way people dispose of remains. I think a lot of us like to think we're unique thinkers and that we'd come up with some novel strategy. But when it comes down to it, these people in these situations tend to look for similar general locations to dispose of remains. It's usually bushland and things like that, which is quite obvious because there's no people around and there's spaces to hide someone effectively, but also targeting waterways and things like that. It's an easy sort of quick way to get rid of the remains. So that those sorts of patterns are similar, and distances from the murder scene are usually quite within a certain range and those sorts of things. But yeah, there's definitely patterns. Group-based body disposal is very new, and we haven't. It's not new. It's new as an area of research, I should say. But we haven't done a comparison with group and individual yet. This is really sort of cutting-edge research in terms of looking at the group dynamics and figuring out whether that does have an impact on body disposal patterns.
My friends have always described me as the person they would call last if they had to get rid of a body. You know, like I'm not good in a crisis. I'm very anxious and I can't keep a secret. But this quality, I don't know if that's a good quality, someone to call when you've got a body to get rid of, but it got me thinking, like, what are these factors that play into how groups choose who are going to be members when they have to do this awful task? Is it loyalty? Is it fear? Is it friendship? What makes someone good to join a group like that?
Yeah, I think the pathways to it are going to be diverse. So, well, we haven't examined this specifically. I'm examining this actual question right now about.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
cool.
About how people, or why people would actually participate in a group body disposal. So the most obvious one you would think of is they've come together as a group to murder someone, and so the body disposal is just part of the process that they may have already planned. But there's actually cases of people who have murdered someone on their own and then call someone up to help them dispose of the remains. And then that person actually attends and assists them. So, that sort of is what I'm looking at currently, looking at sort of obligation to individuals, that sort of authority or coercion to participate and those sorts of things. But I haven't got anything definitive I can give you around that because, as I said, it's new research, but yeah.
It's got to be a hell of a phone call to get. Hey, I'm in your driving. I'm in your driveway. I got something in my trunk. Come outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get back to these group dynamics, though. What else have you learned about these groups?
Well, specifically, that something that hasn't been discovered before is this use of a temporary disposal site. So, in these group body disposal patterns, they will move the remains from the murder scene to a temporary disposal site. Then they will either store them for around an average of 52 hours and then move the remains to a final resting place. So why they do that, we're not too certain. In a couple of cases, in 3 of the cases, it's to treat the remains, what we call treating the remains, which is using burning, dismemberment, or chemical degradation of remains to, mask that a murder or the identity of the victim has occurred, and then move what's left to a final resting place. So that happened in a few cases, but in the majority of them, they just store them for a period of time, and this may be around giving themselves time to plan a proper disposal. The act may have been impulsive, the murder may have been impulsive, and they're sort of thrust into this situation where they think, what do I do next? And therefore, they reach the conclusion that they're going to remove the remains, and then they need that additional time to think.
That leaves us with 3 sites: the site where the initial crime committed, this temporary storage site, and then the final place. These 3 sites, does it complicate police work, or does it maybe somehow make the group easier to catch because there's more evidence spread out across more places? Like, what's the impact on police to this pattern you found?
Yeah, well, we're not entirely certain, but the numbers are showing that someone who doesn't treat the remains and may not use a temporary disposal site, and in fact not even cover the remains when they place them at the final sort of site, are more likely to go undetected for longer periods of time. So we have this sort of threshold around 50% of cases where the remains will be found within 21 to 22 days. And if you look at 30-day intervals, it's the 600 plus point where the untreated, uncovered remains tend to sit the longest. So what I've inferred from that is this, or implied from this, is that that these additional processes and these additional sites actually create more opportunity for evidence gathering for police. So it may actually, unravel or uncover the crime more effectively by using these additional processes.
From a broader, like psychological or even criminological perspective, does studying body disposal teach us things about groups under pressure or that are working under secrecy, things that aren't maybe applicable, things that may be applicable to murderers, but also applicable to everybody?
Yeah, I think it does. The research in group dynamics is usually around small groups in office situations and things like that. They're not really, they might call them high pressure situations in terms of decision making, but nothing like the pressure that would revolve around, disposing of remains, or that sort of time pressure that once a murder has occurred, you've got this like ticking clock that something has to be done immediately and something has to be done effectively. Essentially, the future of your entire future rests on this moment and trying to get away with a murder.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It was fun to talk about your research. Maybe fun's not the right word because it's quite grim, but very interesting. If you ever do need help disposing a body, please do not call me. Dr. Nathan Ryan is a criminology lecturer at Australian Catholic University. Nathan, thanks for sharing this again with me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Earlier this year, a man predicted the world would end on Tuesday. It didn't, but people sold their houses in anticipation. So what does it take to profit off something like that and become a doomsday cult leader? We'll tell you up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
Earlier this year, a South African man theorized that the rapture would take place on the 23rd or 24th, just a couple days ago. Speculation spread online. Some people began to plan for this event, for this doomsday. Some people sold their homes in anticipation. Others still satirized it online. But in case any of this sounds like something you'd like to be a part of today, on Conspiracy Corner, we'll discuss how me, can become a doomsday cult leader. Maybe you can pay attention and you can become one too. And I've got just the man to teach us. His name is Nathan Radke. He's a professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic, and he's got a podcast called The Uncover Up. All right, you are the man for this job, Nathan. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a bit of apocalyptic excitement this week. It was supposed to happen on the 23rd or the 24th. I mean, either it didn't occur or so few people made the cut that nobody else noticed. I mean, certainly you and I are still here, so.
Well, that we know of. I mean, we could be dreaming and it could be before the 23rd or 24th. Who knows? But yeah, in general, doomsday predictions, I would say, I'm no mathematician, but a large percent of the predicted ones over the last 5,000 years have not come true. But again, not a scientist.
100% of them. But, but the thing, it does give us cause to pause. And it did make me think a little bit. And, the economy, it's sort of rough right now. And I know things are going great with the show. And, you've got yourself a fine career. It's always good to have a plan B. I'm sure you've been told this.
I mean, if people are willing to sell their belongings in support of my doomsday prediction, that is a great way to get rich quick if you are the one predicting it.
Exactly. So what about you becoming a doomsday cult leader? I think you specifically, you've got some of what it takes to do this. All we need to do is go over a couple of the details. And I think by the end of this segment, we've got yourself a brand new career.
All right. And then after this, anyone listening, forget what you heard because I'll be making my pitch for you to join my doomsday cult and we'll see if you'll join. Where does one begin? If I start wanting to make predictions that the world will end, is it typically religion? Is it like ancient studies revealing like maybe what the Mayans said? I know there was a prediction back in
2012.
Yes, that was the one. Thank you. Where do I start? Where do I even begin?
I mean, there's all sorts of avenues into this, but let's look at sort of the cultural situation we're in right now, because I mentioned the economy is a little bit rough, but that economic uncertainty, that general sense of ease everyone has right now, that works in your favor because that makes being a doomsday cult leader a better proposition than it usually is. Because, of course, when people are feeling frightened and alarmed, they tend to seek meaning and certainty. And right now we've got economic stresses, political upheaval, war, etc. So people are kind of being pushed to the breaking point. And cults can provide that reassurance to people because they tend to have something that we call a totalist belief system. This is a belief system that it claims to answer all questions, not just larger issues about the nature of existence and reality, but even those little personal questions, little personal problems, moral dilemmas, how to dress. I mean, think about how exhausted you are these days, and then you face your closet, you think, man, what am I going to even wear today? But if you're in a cult, that's often provided for you. Everyone's got the same uniform. There's no room for doubt. There's no room for criticism. There's something reassuring about that. It takes that chaotic world and makes it a much simpler place. You can carve everything up into tidy categories. You've got people who are correct, which anything that conforms to your system, and everybody else who's wrong, who disobeys and challenges your totalist belief system.
And you can blame those people for all the current problems, and then the solution that you might offer is a rapture, perhaps, or some end-of-world event.
Exactly. Is there anything more relaxing than having a scapegoat for all of the problems that exist?
No. But in the moment when you're in this belief system, maybe yes.
Yeah, I mean, because what tends to happen is followers of the totalist belief system, they tend to reject all other interpretations, all other perspectives. And what this does is it removes all the need for individual choices and responsibilities, which can really take the pressure off in difficult times. Because again, we're in times of crisis a lot of our day right now, and there's a tremendous cognitive load placed on the individual brain as it tries to figure out rapidly changing and complex situations. And of course,
sometimes I turn on the news and I'm like, I can't make sense of any of this. And I'm a member of the media. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so overwhelming. I have friends that I work with, like, for big media companies. And when we talk about certain topics, they're like, I don't know what to believe. And I'm like, how did we get here?
Yeah, and it's exhausting. And you'd basically be providing a valuable service because the other thing you'd be doing is people are feeling very isolated. People are feeling very vulnerable and alone. And you would be, with the new cult that you're going to be developing, you'd be providing a community. And obviously people feel less alone and isolated when they're part of a community, and then that gives them a sense of security and well-being. So here's why we're going to now hone in and figure out what are the qualities and the characteristics that makes a successful doomsday cult leader, and how can we make sure that you have these qualities?
I'm taking notes. I am taking notes for people to join the David Cooperation. The David Cooperation? I don't know. We'll come up with a name later.
We're going to need to focus group that.
Yeah. Focus group. You're giving me a hard time. Okay, so what are the qualities of being a great cult leader? I imagine, is charisma in there? That can't be taught.
I mean, you gotta bring that riz, because one of the key attributes of a cult is centralized authority. Ideally centralized in one person, and of course ideally in you. But without that charisma, it's going to be very difficult to convince people because you're going to need to get people to believe you and your, let's face it, wild, ridiculous claims. And you're going to need them to believe it with all their hearts, but also provide them with absolutely no empirical evidence to back up your claims. And so you're going to have to win them over with the strength of personality and charm.
I don't think anyone who has clinical anxiety can be a cult leader, because if I was speaking to my people, like lying to them, trying to just make them believe things without evidence, I would get very anxious. All the self-doubt of, oh, do they believe me? I'm not telling the truth, but they're believing me anyways. How can I get them to believe me? I would just be swirling around in my head. So I feel like you need a certain je ne sais quoi. You need a certain sociopathic side where you actually can either believe your lies or you're so good at lying and you just don't care about that people won't believe you.
Actually, I mean, you're totally right. You need confidence. You need to project confidence. Even if you don't feel the confidence, you need to be able to fake that confidence.
Fake it till you make it. Okay. All right. I'm taking notes.
And so maybe we can that's something we obviously need to work on, because you're going to need to project that. And that's an interesting point. Anxiety is going to come across in your delivery. And if you are doubting yourself, your followers are going to doubt you. And they're going to say, why should we believe this guy?
I kind of do have a superpower. I'm always at a 10 with anxiety. Like talking to a barista at a coffee shop, I'm at a 10, or speaking to 1,000 people in an audience, I'm at a 10. So it's like that scene in The Hulk where they ask him, how do you manage, or this woman asks him, like, how do you manage your anger? And he's like, the secret is I'm always angry. My secret is I'm always anxious. So doing this show, it causes me tons of anxiety all the time. And I've just learned to cope with it. So maybe I'll be okay there.
Okay, I think maybe you can lean into this. There's something else that can help you out here, because you're going to need to be the only source of your cult's knowledge. Because, of course, obviously knowledge is power. You're going to be wanting all of the power. And this is where a very important concept kicks in: revealed knowledge. And this means that the knowledge that you have about how to run the cult and what everybody should be doing, that comes directly to you, to the leader, through some kind of supernatural means. A connection with some kind of entity. You could say that you're in touch with gods or spirits or aliens or ghosts or something like that. And this is crucial because revealed knowledge has key differences from other kinds of knowledge. And it's that difference that allows you to move from just sort of trying to convince people to having people fully embrace your absolutely ridiculous ideas.
All right, you got to have that riz and you got to have some revealed knowledge. These are two simple steps you can take to become a doomsday cult leader. I'm taking notes here with Nathan Radke. It is Conspiracy Corner, and we are discussing, based on somebody predicting the world would end 2 days ago and some people online falling for it, we are teaching me, and maybe you, the listener, how to become a doomsday cult leader. It's Conspiracy Corner. We'll be back with more Nathan Radke in just a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
So good, so good.
New fall arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Vince, Kurt Geiger London, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club at Nordstrom Rack to unlock exclusive discounts on your favorite brands. Shop new arrivals first and more. Plus, get an extra 5% off every Rack purchase with a Nordstrom credit card. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is Conspiracy Corner. We are here with Professor of Conspiracy Studies at Humber Polytechnic, Nathan Radke. Check out his podcast, The Uncover Up. Now, Nathan is telling me how I can become a doomsday cult leader in some simple steps. Recently, there was a prediction that the world will end, the rapture would happen on September 23rd or 24th. It's never exactly clear. And some people believe this, and we're shocked to find out that we are here on the 25th and the world still exists. Bit of a racket, kind of good scam, and we're teaching me how to do it in case I want to become a cult leader. Nathan Radke, welcome to the show.
So far we've said that you need to have that riz, you got to have that charisma, which, let's face it, you obviously have.
Oh, thank you.
And the other thing you need is a claim to revealed knowledge, which is a kind of knowledge you get from a supernatural source that nobody else has access to. And the importance of revealed knowledge is, in a cult, it both justifies the power that you have over their followers because you're the only one who possesses it, you're the only one who can talk to these aliens or these spirits or whatever. It also frees the followers of the responsibility of thinking for themselves because their only access to this stuff is through you. Now, of course, because this power imbalance comes from the knowledge imbalance, it causes another key aspect of the cult, which is exploitation. And this is why this is the reason people get into it.
Classic. Yeah. I mean, there was like a video that circulated. There's a Reddit called Leopards Ate My Face, and it's just basically photos of people who claimed one thing one day, and then the next day or the week later, they had to deal with the repercussions of their actions. And there was one woman who sold her house believing this guy who predicted the rapture. Maybe she sold the house to him, I don't know, but there's a way to exploit people for money if you convince them that the world is going to end.
No, absolutely. I mean, financial exploitation is just one of the many forms of exploitation that takes place in a cult. It's one of the reasons that cults are so horrifying. But in this case, because you and only you have this sacred revealed knowledge, you can pretty much come up with any rules that you want. You can be wildly inconsistent. You can change the rules whenever you feel like. You can just say, wait, I just received another download from the alien overlords.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe there was a silver tablet that was revealed to me. Silver. It's silver. Any overlap with an existing religion is purely coincidental.
Exactly. Maybe they want your followers to live in minimalist poverty, so they should, get rid of all their stuff. But maybe they want you to get carried around in a sedan chair while you get fed peeled grapes.
I mean, that sounds pretty nice. and waved with a big banana leaf to cool me down.
The palm fronds.
Yeah, the palm frond. Yeah, that classic, yeah.
And again, you don't want this. It's just how things have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so weirdly, while you would think that being exploited would encourage people to leave your cult, and this can happen with some followers, it also has this weird effect of hardening the resolve of the followers that stick around. Again, obviously because of sunk cost fallacy, the more a follower has sacrificed in order to be part of your cult, the more likely they are to push through their doubts and double down on the belief system.
It's one of my favorite fallacies, by the way. When you spent so much money or you've invested so much in something that you can't stop now, even though it's a bad decision.
Exactly. You got to double down. You've already lost too much. And particularly because as the leader, you will have been encouraging them to separate themselves from their friends and their family and the rest of the outside world. So without you and your sacred revealed knowledge, they're going to be totally lost. And in case some doubts do kind of start to creep in, which can happen, let's face it, to the best of us, you should have what we call in the business some thought-terminating cliches ready.
Oh boy. Okay, this sounds exciting. I've never heard of this one.
This is good. So a thought-terminating cliche is like a little short phrase that you can use to interrupt critical thinking.
Okay, give me an example here.
So you've got your cults, you're making all sorts of, weird claims and things like that. At some point, your followers are going to think to themselves, wait, this isn't making a ton of sense. Why are we feeding them the grapes? Why are we fanning them with the palm fronds? Why are we carrying around in the sedan chair when, we're living in poverty? And so what you do is you reinforce this with little phrases like, trust the leader, follow the plan, everything happens for a reason, only the weak ask questions. Doubt is just negative energy.
Okay, or just like if you have any doubt at all, you're an enemy, you're in the out group, you're in the group that's causing this, you're not one of us, basically.
Exactly, and these are extremely effective, and you see them in cultish movements because your followers can say them to people who start to waver in their beliefs, and of course, more importantly, they can say them to themselves when their own beliefs start to waver.
Got it. So how can we use this for financial exploitation, though? Do we just get our followers to hand over their money when we're at this phase?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what the spirits or the aliens want. They want everyone to give up their poisoned. Here, I'll help you out with this. Money itself is a kind of corruption and poison. Now, because you're the leader, you are going to sacrifice yourself and accept all that poison, accept all of that corruption, take it on so that your followers can be freed of it. And you will make the sacrifice of accepting all of their corrupted, poisoned money.
Unfortunately, regrettably.
Yeah, I mean, it's the word hero gets thrown around a lot these days, but I mean, it's something that you have to do because again, it's what the knowledge demands.
I need a hero, looking for a hero in the night.
I'm telling you, you got that riz.
Yeah, thank you. It's a killer track, that one. So we're at the exploitation phase. there's this doomsday prediction problem, right? What happens the day after the prediction?
I mean, this is like a serious problem for you as a future cult leader. Because, I mean, part of the reason you have the doomsday is you want to raise the stakes as high as possible in order to keep your followers both frightened and hopeful. You want them frightened of the external world, but hopeful in you and your ability to keep them safe. And so you need to convince that your followers that the doomsday, whatever flavor you have, alien invasion, asteroid, volcano, sun exploding, whatever, that it's on the way and that you, thanks to your revealed knowledge, you can keep them safe if they follow everything you say. And then after the disaster, the world will be yours because only your group will survive. But you're going to have to make a choice here to decide which kind of cult you're going to be. Are you going to predict the end and just sort of sit by and passively allow it to happen? Or, as some cults do, are you going to try and force the end and actually perform actions that bring the apocalypse about yourself?
Yeah, and that one can get really ugly. Like if you poison your cult leaders or you have some awful like event that involves violence, that's where things get a little murky. I got to say, I'm probably just going to predict the day and maybe disappear the day after. Or maybe my predictions are true. Maybe I can believe my lies. I don't know.
I mean, that's a good idea because those cults that tend to try to force the end, groups like Aum Shinrikyo in Japan or the People's Temple in Jonestown, it tends to go pretty bad, pretty violent, pretty destructive. So you're going to kick back and wait. But here's the thing. I got a really important tip for you then. Be vague about your deadline.
Yeah.
I can't stress this enough.
Yeah. That's, I will say again, I mean, we referenced this before the break, but I'm not a statistician, but I'd say at least 50% of all doomsday end of the world predictions have not come true. So we would be a little bit vain. We would be a little bit foolish to think that ours is going to work, but that's not why we're in this. We're in this to become rich, right? I mean, I'm not going to tell my cult followers that, but.
No. That'd be a rookie mistake. And like having a specific deadline, another rookie mistake. A lot of cult leaders have made it. Because if you make specific deadlines, even your most committed followers are probably going to notice, wait a second, the world didn't end. And of course, at that point, you start throwing the thought-terminating cliches at them. You can push the goalposts back. These are all good moves. You can come up with some elaborate justification to explain the discrepancy. But ultimately, if you keep failing, that cognitive dissonance is building up with your followers. It's maybe going to cause them to leave. Of course, here's a veteran move if you want to try it. If you really bungle things up, you can always tell them that somehow you prevented the end of the world and you saved them.
Oh, wow. And you can just rope people back into the next cycle. Well, my cult is going to be centered around spaghetti because I love spaghetti. Want to join it?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. There is a practical advantage to teaching people how to be cult leaders because learning how cult leaders work makes it less likely a person will become a cult follower.
Ah, there was a secret moral all along.
Always is.
Thanks for walking us through these steps. There's a great Netflix series called How to Become a Cult Leader. I'm not recommending it to people because my cousin happened to work on it, but it goes through like Charles Manson and a bunch of different cult leaders. And it's kind of does in a really nice way what we did today here with Nathan Radke. Nathan, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Also, check out Nathan's podcast, The Uncover Up. It's all about conspiracy theories and it's worth a listen. There's an old, if a little annoying cliche. It goes like this: happy wife, happy life. Well, that advice actually might be a little toxic, and we'll tell you why after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
In the 70s, 4 young women were found dead. For nearly 50 years, their cases went cold. I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. In the season finale of Crime Beat, I share how investigators uncovered shocking evidence of a serial killer and hear exclusive interviews with the killer's family. Listen to the full season of Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music by asking Alexa to play the podcast Crime Beat.
Prepare to have your mind blown as we delve into the complexities of relationships, explore the cutting edge of science, and celebrate the bizarre and beautiful absurdity of the world around us. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
We have all heard the saying, happy wife, happy life. It gets thrown around like it's sage-like wisdom, but what if that advice is actually toxic? Today we're joined by an online relationship and marriage counselor who argues that this old cliche may actually undermine the very relationship you're trying to protect. I'm excited to discuss here with Laura Press. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
The phrase happy wife, happy life, it sounds annoying to me, but it sounds sweet on the surface. Why is this harmful advice? What's underneath this sweet, kind of cute phrase that people throw around?
What's underneath really is what will happen is one person will just give and give and give to the other person, making them very happy, while the other person is slowly kind of dying inside. They're building resentment, they're building frustration, and they're not getting any of their own wants and needs met. And I see this happen in front of me in session all of the time.
There are people who, to make them happy is like an endless well of effort, and they've got to do some personal work because nothing's ever good enough. And to those people, if you say the phrase, happy wife, happy life, you might be a little bit miserable, caught in the crossfire there.
100%. And I mean, I think we all know by now that happiness is the inside job. And then the next part of that is, of course, when you're in a relationship, yes, we want to get both people's needs met. But that's in an authentic way, not a, let me put the bar so high that I've just got to keep reaching and reaching and reaching and reaching. That's not real.
So talk to me about those partners, those either husbands or wives to wives that end up resentful when they take this approach.
Yes. So this can, really occur, whether it's male or female. I see it a lot happening. And what usually happens is going, oh my goodness, I've given you everything. It's been 10 years of, me just reaching for the stars and hitting it every time. And then all of a sudden you come to me one day and telling me you're not happy. And it's surprising. What I find more often than not, the whole happy wife, happy life thing will often end up in the happy wife, quote unquote, happy wife saying, hey, I want to go to counseling. I don't feel happy. And the other person's like, what? And then that's where there's just the resentment, the frustration, the anger, like you name it, really comes out in such a big way, because it's like I put everything on hold. I put my needs, my wants, my desires, my goals, my passions, and now you're telling me you're not happy? And they're baffled. They're like, how can this be true? Because they haven't been in an authentic relationship. That's how it's true.
Interesting. And what I'm kind of hearing is that what can happen is both partners make the husband or the partner to the wife, they sort of hold the keys to the wife's happiness. And they both sort of are looking at the partner as the key holder to happiness. And that is no way to structure one's own happiness.
100%. And they usually is kind of like that finger pointing, like, well, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. And we all know that when someone does something that we think is going to make us happy, it doesn't make us happy. We think it will, but it doesn't. Like you say, it's holding those keys and dangling those keys. And it's the perceived, you do X, Y, Z, and I will therefore be happy. And this is not true, because inherently we know deep down, even if we don't want to consciously acknowledge it, we know that we have to be happy. We know that we have to, also give in our relationships. Giving is actually a source of happiness when we are giving to others and showing others love and connection. When it's real and authentic, that's more where happiness lies than, kind of dangling the keys.
Why do you think these one-side sayings, like a phrase like this, has caught on so easily and people throw it around like it's great advice when they often don't work in the long run?
Look, I'm sure once upon a time it was written in context and it wasn't just this, throwaway line. But as, humans, we're really great at grabbing onto some cliche bit of information, grabbing it and then throwing it around life. I mean, I've heard lots of men come to, sessions and gone, well, happy wife, happy life. And I've done that and I've lived by it. And I think it's bantered around in groups and things like that and taken completely out of context. And I mean, like you said, originally, it sounds lovely. Of course you want your wife or your husband to be happy, but there's so much more to it. It's not that simple, right? Because you have to be honest to yourself and authentic to yourself as well. Otherwise, like we said already, the resentment gets full on.
It does sound sweet, but there's something about, I feel like it only caught on because it rhymed, and that's what really annoys me about it. Just because something rhymes doesn't mean it's good advice.
Correct.
Replacing the phrase with two whole people, one strong relationship. Is that something you've said? And if so, tell me about it. I do love it. It's a much more well-rounded approach to relationships.
Yes, it is something I've said, kind of in mitigation to the whole happy wife, happy life thing, because what you do really need for that great relationship is two whole people, two people that look at their own stuff, take their own accountability, like even see how they're showing up individually in their own lives and then collectively as a couple. And when you've taken that responsibility around yourself, your own happiness, your own wants, your own needs, all of these different things, and then you're able to communicate them effectively with your partner, that's where you can have that strong relationship. And I think that's kind of sometimes where we get things out of a bit of a misalignment, where we're not really looking at ourselves and we're just going, let me get from my partner, let me take from my partner. It's like, no, we need accountability within ourselves first as well, for how we're showing up, for how we're feeling first. And then we can have that strong relationship.
To somebody that says, in pushing back to our view here, that their partner is really only the happiest when they make sacrifices, which is to say, like the husband says, I need to make sacrifices to make my wife happy. How do you respond to someone who pushes back like that?
Well, I'd say sacrifices and compromises are different, I would get, like, firstly. So I'd say if there's sometimes, let's be honest, we don't want to watch the same movie and we compromise, maybe we take a week about, okay, that's fine. But if you're full on sacrificing your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and your values, like things that are integrally part of yourself, that's a problem, because you're giving from the wrong space, if that makes sense. And that's where resentment will really come up strongly. And I hate to say it, but you'll pay for it at some point throughout the relationship. And so I think you need to think about, where is it coming from? Sure, do we sacrifice here and there? We give them the extra bit of food on our plate, whatever, that's fine. But when we're talking about like deep integral sacrifices that's kind of wearing away at you, that's a big problem. That's where kind of realignment needs to happen within the relationship.
Are there, I know I was talking to you about this at the commercial break here. Are there other cliches or relationship advice bits that really bug you, that get peddled as wisdom, that sort of aren't the thing that you think are it for couples?
Yeah, we were talking about that one around where don't go to bed angry. And this is one I hear all of the time. And it does kind of make me chuckle a bit, because we were talking about some nuances around this, right? You know, if alcohol is involved, clearly we don't continue that conversation. It's going to go nowhere productive. I always say, if you're having a conversation and it's not productive, why do we keep hitting our head against the brick wall? You're not in the right state. You're not in the right frame of mind. Perhaps you actually just do need some sleep. So yeah. There's kind of a couple of nuances, though, I do tell couples. So one is if you have the time to take a pause, change your state, then come back and resolve it before bed, because you have the time, you have the space, the kids are in bed, whatever. Great, do that. And of course, you fix it, right? Like don't go to bed angry. However, do not stay up till 3 a.m. to quote unquote fix it, because to be honest, let's be real, you kind of forget what you're talking about anyway. You start just throwing out some nasty stuff. You both get more offended and more hurt because you're tired.
Yeah.
Because the logic has gone out the window like 5 hours ago. So go and get some sleep. When you've got the next available opportunity, then resolve it.
If it's an important fight, it deserves to be continued with a sober morning mind after a good night's rest. If it's not making sense at 3 a.m., you really owe this fight the respect it deserves. And if it's a stupid fight because you're overtired, sleep is going to fix it, and you'll end up dropping it in the morning anyway. So those are my two reasons for why I think you should go to bed angry. In fact, anyone listening should just get into a fight with their spouse so they can go to bed angry. No, but that's not exactly the advice. Well, I'm so glad to have discussed this one with you, because happy wife, happy life always rubbed me the wrong way. But thanks for sort of clarifying what might be wrong with it, Laura.
Thanks for having me. It's a great chat.
You can find Laura Press. She's an online relationship and marriage counselor. Just look her up. That's Laura Press. Coming up next, a question. If you've got a house and your name's not on the deed and you got a prenup, if things go south, what are your rights? Also, what are your rights if it was a surprise prenup that you didn't have a lawyer review? Details in a few minutes.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. When the day is done, we're just getting started. The last show with David Cooper.
After decades with your partner, what rights do you really have if you've got a prenup and your name isn't on the property? The marital home isn't in your name. An advice column recently raised this question. A woman was given a prenup just before the marriage, and surprise, she didn't have time to review it with a lawyer. But today we'll unpack the legal realities of odd situations like this with divorce attorney John Nachlinger. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you see this a lot. Weird housing situations that couples get in, whether it's a prenup, whether the home's in one person's name, and they just kind of don't really figure it out, or it seems off, but they're happy, so they don't think about it. And then they become less happy, as happens often, and boom, divorce. What happens with the house? This is something you must see a lot in your practice.
Oh, yeah. And what's interesting is even if there's no prenup, I mean, there's a lot of people that come into a marriage with the house already that they move into, and they live, they might live in that house for 25 years. Some people get in a house through inheritance or something, and then people live in it as a married couple, and they're doing things. They're living their lives. They're renovating the bathroom. They're putting on a new roof. They're, doing new landscaping. They're putting in a pool. And then here comes divorce, and the person who had the house before the marriage is like, no, you don't get any of this house now because I had it beforehand. So without a prenup, most of the time, the house still gets split, or at least whatever increase in value of the house gets split. I mean, it's a little bit more nuanced, but people don't just walk away in the absence of a prenup. People don't just walk away with nothing from a house they lived in throughout their marriage.
I know it varies from place to place. I grew up in Canada, in Ontario. I lived in California. I got divorced in California. I live in New York now. But generally, my understanding, and I am not a lawyer, in case you didn't know, by the fact that I went to a Groupon class in law, and that qualifies me to make a comment on this. Courts generally look at the marital home as this shared thing, and not so much whose name is on the deed. I know it varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but is that the general view of the courts? If you live there for 25 years, the name on the deed doesn't really matter. It was your home together, and that's where the marriage was built, and therefore there's an entitlement there to both people.
Yeah, and that goes beyond the house too. Title means nothing in a marriage. So anything, doesn't matter where you live. Everything from the day you get married till the day you start the divorce process is marital and is going to be split. How it's split, that's what changes from place to place, but it will be split. It's just a matter of when did you get it. It doesn't matter, whose name it's on. So a lot of times people will buy a house in one name because one person's got really crappy credit or something, and so, they can't put both names on the house. It doesn't matter. Same thing with bank accounts, retirement accounts, anything else, cars. It doesn't matter. It's when'd you get it? When'd you buy it? That's all that really matters. But if you buy it before the marriage, like the only thing that really can become marital is the marital house. And that's for the reason that most people usually both contribute towards it. Whether you're paying the mortgage, the property taxes, or the maintenance and upkeep, whatever it is, you kind of build it together. And in that case, even though someone had it before marriage, usually it still is split some way. I mean, that's jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It will depend on how it's split, but it usually gets split.
Now, let's talk about this advice column. So this woman got surprised with a prenup. I don't know how well it was written, but she didn't barely have any time to review it with a lawyer. She just kind of signed it. Maybe it was written not that well. Are all prenups created equal? Like if I just sign some sketchy piece of paper that says I get nothing with no legal review, or we both have attorneys, we go over it, we negotiate it, it looks good to both attorneys. Like, are those two prenups equal, or is the first one, the sketchy one, not really going to stand?
So what's interesting about prenups, and this has been happening all over the place, all over the United States and in other countries, prenups used to be more of the Wild West. It used to be like, just does a judge think it's fair? And if so, I'll enforce it. Everyone's been moving more and more towards actual requirements for prenups to be enforceable. So the two major requirements are there has to be an attorney for both parties, or you have to explicitly waive your right to an attorney. And two, there has to be a full disclosure of all your stuff, all your assets, all your debt, your income. There has to be a full disclosure before the prenup is signed. So these days, almost everywhere, if those sorts of things are not done, the court can throw out the prenup pretty easy. But the other parts of this are coercion and duress. It's kind of like anything, like any contract, because it's a contract. If you're signed a contract under coercion or duress, it can be thrown out by the court. That's the law everywhere. So in situations like this, I see this all the time. This one's not as egregious as other ones I've seen. This one, at least she got it a week in advance and just didn't have time, with the wedding planning, didn't have time to actually go see an attorney. I've seen situations where husbands will walk into the room where their wife is putting on their wedding gown and throw down the prenup and say, sign this or I'm not getting married. It is crazy. And, those by and large will get thrown out. But what I found interesting about this particular situation is, at least the way I read it, is she's not really getting divorced right now. She's just being told that in the event her husband dies, she won't get anything because of the prenup she signed. And that's interesting because prenups govern divorce. You can have a prenup that governs sort of how you're going to divide things in the event of someone's death, but you'd still be adhering to whatever the laws are wherever you live. So like
Interesting.
most
So
places,
prenups and wills are like totally different
they're
things.
totally different, but you can intertwine them to some degree. But almost everywhere, a surviving spouse is entitled to a certain percentage of their dead spouse's estate, no matter what the will says. That's pretty much, for obvious reasons. We don't want people to be impoverished just because their husband on their deathbed decided to write their wife out of the will last minute. But what's interesting is prenups can do just about anything. And there's really, you're in California. California, they do crazy stuff with prenups. Like there's fidelity clauses. There's like, if you didn't cook for me enough, you don't get anything. There's crazy stuff. We can't do all of that like in New York and New Jersey. We've got a little bit more sane laws and structures over here. But the bottom line is, if you do it right, you follow all the rules, your prenup can say just about anything. And that would include, I had the house before I was married. Even if we lived in it for 30 years together, you may not get any of the house still because the prenup may say you get nothing.
What if you enter a situation like that? Let's say I'm the wife, okay? And I signed the prenup and the house is not in my name and it was bought before the marriage, but then maybe I'm a rich wife and I'm paying all the taxes on it. I invest several $100,000 in a renovation. I basically do the upkeep and improvement of the property. Even though I signed my rights away, might I be entitled to get something from it?
You may not.
Oh boy,
it's a contract. It's a contract. It's so, courts would look at that and maybe tell this generous wife, oh, you gave a lot of nice gifts to your husband throughout the marriage because you signed a prenup that said you weren't entitled to this property. And unless, most prenups are pretty reasonable, David. Like when I do prenups, I make sure it says that if the other person puts money into the property, they're going to get it back or they're going to get some kind of credit at the end. A lot of prenups are a little bit more reasonable. This is in the extreme case, though. No, if the prenup says you don't get something, unless the prenup's unenforceable, you don't get that thing. The whole point of a prenup is to tell us what's going to happen in the event of a divorce. That's the entire purpose. So if the courts start making exceptions, well, we're not going to do it on a house, we're not going to do it on this, we're not going to do it on that, then what was the point of the prenup in the first place? So, that's really it. And going into a prenup, if you have an attorney who presumably will tell you what it means, and you know what your spouse has going into the marriage, you go into it with your eyes wide open. And I know you've probably seen plenty of examples of people that agree to crappy deals, but you still have to live with a crappy deal, even if that's the one you made.
Check out John Nachlinger at gethappydivorce.com. He's a divorce attorney. John, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right, that is our Thursday night show. Thank you, listener, singular intended, for tuning in. Do not forget, the last show is available as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com. And on that website, you can find details of said podcast, including how to subscribe. And we'd like it if you did. We'd really, really like it if you did. Please subscribe. Don't make me beg. Anyway, I am David Cooper, and this was, you guessed it, The Last Show.
ABC Wednesday, Shifting Gears is back.
He has arisen.
Tim Allen and Kat Dennings return in television's #1 new comedy.
What?
With a star-studded premiere including Jenna Elfman, Nancy Travis, and Hey, buddy! A big home improvement reunion.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
That guy's a tool.
Shifting Gears. Season premiere Wednesday, 8/7 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.